What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:03 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from here in the US and from overseas. So what you're looking at here is a picture coming out of upstate New York in Saratoga Springs. This was sent to me by a viewer of the channel who happens to also be a volunteer firefighter in the Saratoga Springs Fire Department. And he told me that his fire department had FEMA and NEST visit them and teach them about nuclear stuff. Okay, I didn't get any more details from him yet, but based on this picture, you can see they were doing some kind of decontamination exercise. You can see this person here is wearing some kind of a nuclear, biological, and chemical resistant suit with rubber boots. So my guess is they were practicing decontamination and taking readings of radiation levels. This is clearly a sign that our government is preparing for nuclear war, or possibly some kind of a nuclear detonation inside of the United States. This is very, very concerning, guys. Here's another picture. Okay, so wanted to just let you guys know that the U.S. government is preparing for some kind of a nuclear incident or nuclear war, training firefighters in Saratoga Springs, New York, and I'm sure this is going to be spreading across the country. This is just the beginning, guys, and they did an entire week-long exercise in Albany, New York, practicing various types of nuclear response scenarios with the military, okay? Also, we have this video footage coming out of Mexico showing the cartels, and the cartels are just showing off their weapons here and armored vehicles. You can see these pickup trucks with steel armor attached to them. Okay, so the cartels officially declared war on the U.S. Border Patrol and the U.S. military stationed at the border with Mexico. Okay, they declared war a few days ago, and they have authorized the use of kamikaze drones against the Border Patrol and the military. Okay, so this is very, very concerning, but look at all of these cartel forces here, and lots of heavy military gear. You can see machine gun mounts on these pickup trucks with some kind of belt-fed machine guns attached. So this is no joke, guys. We could be going to war with the cartels very soon. It's very possible that the Trump administration may decide to invade northern Mexico or launch strikes on the Sinaloa cartel. Now, last night, a U.S. reconnaissance plane flew from Strategic Command in Offutt Air Base to the Gulf of California, which is the little bit of ocean between the Baja Peninsula and mainland Mexico, and that's where the Sinaloa cartels have their home bases, okay? So this was a high priority strategic recon mission. The U.S. sending an RC-135 Rivet Joint Recon plane to the Baja California area near Sinaloa, clearly collecting information and intelligence on the cartels to possibly launch strikes in the future, airstrikes, or possibly a ground invasion. So this is an extremely tense situation here. And I wanted to update you guys on that Ukraine missile attack last Friday. So we were watching that for several hours last Friday. All of Ukraine was lit up under an air raid alert for 4 hours, which typically only happens when Russia is about to launch Oreshniks. Well, apparently the reason why the Russians did not launch any missiles at Ukraine that night, even though they sent like a dozen bombers to the Caspian Sea and they carried out launch maneuvers, apparently their missiles malfunctioned. Okay, apparently there's video footage that was released on Facebook and other social media platforms showing a CH-22 Raduga missile that apparently malfunctioned and crashed in the Lipetsk region. So maybe Russia did launch these missiles, but they malfunctioned and crashed, okay? And I want to update you guys on the tariff situation. So China has now slapped tariffs on the U.S. China has slapped a 15% tariff on U.S. coal and liquid natural gas and a 10% tariff on U.S. crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large vehicles and trucks. So this is in response to Trump's 10% increase in tariffs on China, which went into effect midnight last night. And new U.S. intel indicates that Iran has formed a secret team of scientists to speed up nuclear weapons development. Tehran is allegedly seeking a shortcut to a bomb that would cut the process from years to months, according to the New York Times. Okay, so very, very bad news with Iran. And the UK Telegraph reported yesterday that Iran has covertly developed nuclear missiles with a range of 3,000 kilometers. Apparently, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are operating 2 satellite launch sites, which in reality are actually missile production and development facilities. And apparently, North Korea is assisting Iran in advancing its missile program. And U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth refused to rule out military strikes on Mexico, saying all options will be on the table. This was reported by the UK Independent. Okay, so he's talking about the cartels, dealing with the cartels. And last night, U.S. stealth bombers were deployed for some reason, and we had a lot of nuclear attack options being broadcasted. And we also had data being broadcasted by the Russians and NATO, encrypted data. So something was going on last night. Multiple Russian doomsday planes were also sent into the air from Moscow. So something's brewing in Europe, and we have data being transmitted right now on the primary U.S. nuclear war frequency, and it's mostly being heard in Europe. So something's going on in the European theater, because NATO Allied Joint Force Command in Naples was broadcasting data all night last night. The Russians were broadcasting data on one of their strategic frequencies last night, and then all the Russian doomsday planes going to the Urals and the stealth bombers going airborne last night here in the U.S. And what you're looking at is an aerial refueler that was flying near Whiteman Air Force Base. And that's how we know that the U.S. had B-2s airborne, because this refueler was flying right near Whiteman. And here you can see the high priority recon plane that was sent from Strategic Command to the Baja California area near Sinaloa. Also here you can see a nuke sniffer plane that went from Strategic Command to Colorado Springs, which is home of NORAD and Cheyenne Mountain Doomsday Bunker, and it was doing loops at the Colorado Springs Airport right near Peterson Space Force Base. That's where NORAD is located. So our military is definitely on high alert. There's more nuclear attack options being broadcasted this afternoon. And what you're looking at here is a high priority U.S. recon plane that flew to China near the Hainan Island, and it took off from Okinawa. It also spent some time in the Taiwan Strait, adjacent to a U.S. sub-hunter plane, a P-3 Orion, that was patrolling the southern coast of Taiwan. But what makes this flight significant is this is an RC-135 combat scent plane, and the U.S. Air Force only has 2 of them, and they send intelligence directly to the president and our top generals. So if one of these is airborne somewhere, it means that the president and the top generals want to get a better look at something. And again, there's only 2 of them, okay? So this thing was flying right near the Hainan Island in China, right near Vietnam, and this is where China has previously conducted missile launches from, missile tests, and they have some kind of a ICBM base there. Okay, so this is definitely not a good sign. And here's a closer look. You can see the P-3 Orion sub-hunter patrolling the southern part of Taiwan, and the Combat Scent also flying in the southern part of Taiwan. And here you can see all the Russian Doomsday planes that took off from Moscow and went east to the Urals and Siberia. One went to Chelyabinsk, one went to Omsk, another one went to Novosibirsk. So something is brewing, guys. And the U.S. is about to finalize a $1 billion arms deal with Israel, which will include 4,700 Mark 83 bombs. So they just gave Israel 1,800 2,000-pound bombs, and now Israel's going to be buying nearly 5,000 Mark 83 bombs. So it sounds to me like Israel's getting ready for war with Iran. And Netanyahu met with Trump and the Trump administration yesterday. I'm sure they talked about Iran's nuclear program. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that El Salvador's president has agreed to accept deported illegals from the U.S. regardless of nationality, as well as violent criminals currently imprisoned in America. And the U.S. briefly stopped shipping weapons to Ukraine as the new White House administration debated its policies towards Ukraine, Reuters reported yesterday, citing 4 sources familiar with the matter. The Trump administration was initially inclined to stop all aid to Ukraine, but arms deliveries resumed over the weekend following internal discussion, 2 of the sources told Reuters. Trump has yet to authorize new aid, leaving Ukraine reliant on Biden-era approvals that will eventually run out. Okay, so the U.S. resuming aid to Ukraine, but Trump has not agreed to give Ukraine more weapons, just the existing deals that Ukraine signed. And U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed a desire to secure a deal with Ukraine in which Ukraine would supply the U.S. with rare earth minerals in exchange for financial and military aid. This statement was made during discussions emphasizing the value of Ukraine's natural resources, particularly in light of the ongoing war efforts against Russia. So very interesting. And Trump's special representative to Ukraine, retired General Keith Kellogg, will arrive in Ukraine mid-February to meet with Zelensky. After the visit, Kellogg will go to Europe for negotiations, and later he is to take part in the Munich Security Conference. So that'll be pretty interesting to see what the outcome of that will be. And U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to announce today that the U.S. will withdraw from the UN Human Rights Council and extend a freeze on funding for the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. So very, very interesting. And the move comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Washington. Netanyahu has been a vocal critic of the UNRWA, accusing the agency of inciting anti-Israeli sentiment and alleging that some of its staff members have ties to terrorism. And 2 Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority employees have been arrested for leaking videos of the tragic D.C. aircraft collision with the Black Hawk. So very interesting. The feds are trying to cover up what happened, and they don't want people leaking out footage, and they're now arresting people that are leaking out footage. And hundreds of U.S. Marines have arrived in Guantanamo Bay to set up a detention facility to house up to 30,000 illegal immigrants, according to Trump's executive order. Now, this kind of reminds me of the Japanese internment camps. I hope it doesn't turn into that. And what you're looking at here is the flight path of a U.S. P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter that went up towards Russia in northern Norway. And then here we have a sub-hunter in southern California, a P-3 Orion, patrolling this area off the coast of San Diego and Los Angeles. And in case you guys didn't know, there will not be any tariffs on Canada or Mexico. Yesterday, Trump had phone calls with the president of Mexico and the Prime Minister of Canada. Here's a statement from Justin Trudeau on Twitter. He wrote, "I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-U.S. Joint Strike Force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. Okay, so that's what Trudeau just posted. And last night there were more protests in LA against deportation, and what ended up happening was the LAPD corralled all of these protesters into a tunnel and blocked them in from both sides, and they were given citations. No arrests, but just citations. But it looks like these protests are probably being funded by the cartels or outside forces, and I do believe these are going to escalate. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with another update. I will be monitoring the EAMs and our nuclear forces, and I will be releasing an app in the coming days to the Google Play Store. It's 100% free, and basically it will allow you to get notifications from me, so I can push out notifications to everybody with the app and let you guys know of any emergency breaking news or any kind of critical updates, especially when I post an emergency alert or I go live because of something very, very serious. I can push out an update on the app and you'll get an alert, and you can even click on the alert and it'll take you straight to my live stream or my latest update. Okay, so that's going to be coming out in the next few days, hopefully for Android, and it's currently being developed for Apple, which may take a couple more weeks, but I'll keep you guys updated. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.